Like everybody's got a team. So there's a group of people, like say your grandmother passed on,
Yeah.
and you sometimes feel her around. Often she's with you.
Okay, guys, after a long-standing technical difficulty, I have Jennifer Hillier here. This is episode number 4. I'm super excited, passionate about this. As Jen said, like a
Obsessed.
little fangirl type mentality. But Jen and I are here today to talk about spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call them. And she has visions, and she's going to explain to us exactly what they are. For the longest time, everybody talks about whether a house is haunted. We're going to go through disclosures in real estate and all that fun stuff. But we want to talk about Jennifer's perspective on the whole thing and her experiences throughout the process. So Jen, before we start, we are going to have you graciously introduce yourself. And let's shoot. Go.
Awesome. So I'm Jennifer Hillier. I'm with Remax Escarpment, like you, Tyler.
Yeah.
But before that, I was a naturopathic doctor for 17 years. And I was a professor at the Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine for 5 years and just moved across the country having different practices and clinics. And then for COVID, I retired from naturopathic medicine and ended up joining my husband, who was getting a kidney transplant at the time, took over his business. He took 5 days off, and we've been working together ever since.
5 days off. That's
5
it.
days for a kidney transplant.
Good.
Very stubborn.
And I'm super glad he's not here, okay, because he would just talk
It's nice
way
to have
too
some
much.
time off.
And Jen brought up a good point. So the cool thing here is like we're like competitors. We are like same market. Here we go. Competed on some deals, won some, lost some.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. And Jen's perspective here is super important because we can't really find gifted people like Jen. So
Very
Jen,
kind.
so like I guess so you were a professor at CCNM.
Yep.
I remember that place. And I guess for anybody out there, if you don't know what that means, that's someone's coming through. That's more of a holistic nutrition approach. Is
Yeah.
that
A whole bit like botanical medicine, Chinese medicine,
real
nutrition,
voodoo stuff.
voodoo stuff. Totally.
Okay, Jen. So let's dive right in. The reason why we've got you here is
Yeah.
because you have the ability to sense or feel spirits.
Sometimes, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that is something that I've learned that I can do or be a part of over the years. And Tyler and I were at a party, a big Remax party, and we got into like feeling the energy of the space,
Yeah, that was
and
awesome.
it was crazy. And then kind of like, oh, can you feel this? Can you feel that? And Tyler was just really getting interested in what's going on. What are you talking about? And vodka is really helpful in having those conversations for the
Yes.
first time.
Yeah, so that's how this started, guys. It totally intrigued me where we were at the old train station in Hamilton,
Mhm.
and she started seeing some visions and of course once I googled it, I found out it was one of the most haunted places in Hamilton. So that's what kind of spurred this whole thing along for us. But tell us what you see. Like tell us a little bit about it. I guess what you see, but tell us how it all started, how you first realized that you had
Yeah.
this gift, so to speak,
Yeah.
and you weren't like going crazy.
And again, this is like totally not formalized. This isn't something that I'm like, I identify as someone
Ye-
who is a spiritualist, whatever. I don't even know what all those terms mean.
Okay.
So I'm from a family where, I think my grandmother had feelings about things, or, you just hear about random people being right about certain things, but nothing like, oh, my grandmother is a psychic or anything like that. Just
Yeah.
people who are sensitive in my family. And then my sister and I in high school, just up the road in Rockwood here, were messing around with a Ouija board, which I'll never touch again, and just kind of getting curious about the stuff that teenage girls tend to get into and tarot cards and that kind of stuff. Um, and just started becoming aware of things. Like, what's that weird feeling? Like just becoming more sensitive to forces, I guess.
So the Ouija board, you wouldn't touch it again.
We got rid of that Ouija board, and my sister would.
So it's a
just
true like they work.
We got rid of it. We threw it out the back into the conservation area.
Yeah.
It came back. It showed back up on the porch of our parents' house, And, like, it stayed outside all winter, it didn't weather at all, like, it looked exactly the same, it's made of plywood, it
Yeah.
should weather. We, like, put it in the basement, it keeps showing up, like, we thought we gave it away, it shows up again, I don't know, I would not touch one of those things for $1,000,000 now.
Okay. So you say your sister, so does your sister still, does she have the feelings too?
Yes, she has a different kinda set of them, but yeah.
So when did you first know? Like when did you first like I guess when did you first know, can you turn it off? And the reason why like I'm like so into this is because I've always wanted to like since I've been started, like since I've been selling real estate, but more importantly, we live in a small old community.
Yeah,
And I remember like specifically people are like 123 Main Street, that's haunted. Sometimes if you're lucky, you'll see a woman in the window. And
totally.
like, you grow up with these stories, and I always kind of like poo-pooed it, so to speak,
Mhm.
until I kind of ran into you, you've kind of converted me throughout this process. But like, so like, yeah, like when did you do it? Can you turn it on? Can you turn it off? How does it work?
I think it's kind of like listening. Like for me, it's that sense of, you can listen in a room to a conversation going on like at the next table, and you can like eavesdrop and listen to that, or you can just listen to the person across from you. So if I really want to tune into something, then I'll try and like hear what's going on at that table. But it takes a little bit of work to do that, but it's a
Yeah.
lot easier to talk to you. So on a day-to-day basis, I would be talking to you,
Yeah.
not some random conversation
Like,
that's
is there
going on.
anybody
And
behind me?
I'm not looking for them right now. If I went into kind of an idea of like who's with Tyler, what's going on, everybody travels with a group of people in my experience of like people who've passed on, people who are like spirit guides, maybe angels. I don't know what people would define them as in their own traditions,
Yeah.
but it's kind of what I see in my sight per se. Like it's in my mind. Like it's not,
So in terms of like let's go back to that.
yeah,
Everybody travels with people. Like
yeah.
like what do you mean by that? And obviously it's your experience, right?
My
And we're not
exactly.
like we're not putting a stamp on this like um you know I guess what's the like a medium or anything like
No,
that. These are just her own feelings. So we do have people that
totally.
do it for as a career.
Yeah.
And maybe we should get some of those on the podcast as well. That'd be
This is just gonna
awesome.
become a
All right.
seance.
Yeah. Just one big seance. But so it's important that everybody knows that. But just so from your experience, people travel with other people. So you're saying,
Like, everybody's got a team. So, there's a group of people, like, say your grandmother passed on,
yeah,
and you sometimes feel her around, often she's with you. So, there's a group of people around that I can kind of sense with each person that are there to support them, that are there to make connections for them. It's like your big PR team that's communicating with other people's groups of people, like, "So and so, like, we should get together. Let's create this on a different plane and then pull these 2 together in this space." So, it's not like you're being haunted by all these spooky people. It's people who love you. It's people who are kind of here to support you in this life. It's like your family, but they're a little bit different.
but they're cheering you on,
They're cheering
so
you
to speak.
on, yeah, and they're trying to make life work for you. So, I don't know, I find comfort in when feeling lonely or sad or any of the human emotions that come up to just kinda call on those people and just be like, "I need a little bit of a boost here,"
Yeah.
or I just know that you're not alone, that
And
there's a
that's
loved
and
one here.
that's when you have those, like, I mean, I think everybody's had them where you have like, oh, look at this, or like a Penny or like Mickey, she always
Yeah,
her feathers,
yeah,
right?
messages.
Yes, and she's more in tune to that. For me, I'm just like your typical bulldozer guy where I'm like, and then I'm like, oh, feather. Will someone clean this shit up? You know what I mean? And then like, so you
Yeah,
do have to like, would it be possible for some, like, I guess in your experience, would it be
yeah.
possible for someone like me, okay, to kind of like tune into the frequency? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I would say in my experience, of course, that's the qualifying nature of all of this, the people who are either the most interested or the most freaking afraid are the people who have the most potential for being able to sense these things. So people who may have had experiences as children that they might not be consciously aware of, but who are like, ghosts are terrifying, or don't even come near me with those tarot cards, or don't talk to me about spirits. Like, that stuff's crazy and bad and wrong.
Yeah.
Those are people who are sensitive, who often are able to see that stuff, but have either shut it down or just feel really alarmed by it. And those are often, I've dabbled and played with people in like reading tarot tarot cards and just teaching friends how to do stuff in a very informal way.
Yeah.
And the people who are the most gifted are the ones who in the beginning were like, "No, this is so scary,"
Yeah.
because I think they've had an experience of it.
So when did you first realize then?
I don't think it was something that, like, suddenly turned on. It was just kind of getting clear that I could hear that conversation that was
Well,
going
like
on
if you're like, do you have any, memories that come to mind on like, I guess memories do come to mind, right?
quite often.
Um, but did you like, you're 6, you're 10, like, you're in high school. Like, is there anything like, so I guess like, I guess not the exact date, but were you aware?
I think I wasn't aware that it wasn't a normal thing. It was like, you have dreams, they come true. That's normal. There's something going on in this house that has a weird feel. Hmm. Other people also notice it has a weird feel. Okay, that's just normal.
Yeah.
So it was never like I saw someone come out of the wall at me and
Yeah.
yell my
Because
name or
you go
something.
into a, like, we grew up in a century home. Like,
Yeah.
every time I went into that basement,
Oh,
it's
spooky as heck.
dark, it's spooky, it's musky, and I mean, and then your brother's at the top of the stairs turning your lights off.
Full on.
So like,
Yeah.
everybody has that. Everybody has the
Yeah.
hairs on the back of their neck. So how do
Totally.
we distinguish that between what you're talking about?
I don't think it's any different. I think it's just on a spectrum.
So could people misinterpret being, scared of a certain area, like an attic or a basement? Like, I think
Yeah.
overall attics and basements are probably scary anyways.
Super spooky, yeah, because we live in a century home too, and it's kind of like, "Oh, the attic's a creepy place." The kids call it a creepy place. We've had it all redone. It's quite nice. Has a
Yeah.
propane fireplace in it, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's interesting being a realtor, you spend a lot of time in a lot of old
Yeah.
century home basements. So you
Yeah.
start to get the sense of like, this is just like an ugly place and
Yeah.
yuck, and I don't like the mold in my lungs versus there's something up with this place. So I went to university at Queens in Kingston, and all my friends lived like every house in student
Yeah.
housing was like elderly,
Yeah.
old houses. And some of them were just like ramshackle and, a great place to hang out, but not really pretty. And some of them were just downright spooky as heck. And they looked fine. They all looked the same. They're all run down student housing. But some of them were super weird, and everything that happened to the people in the house always seemed to be
Yeah.
super weird. So it was like that. So now I think being in a lot of different houses, and we moved around a lot as a kid, living in different houses, you start to get what's Hollywood creepy,
Yeah.
like, oh, the furnace with the big arms and, like, the dirt floor, that's probably where murders happen,
Yeah.
versus, like, actually creepy, which can be like a new build, lovely white everything, perfect staging, and you're like, "Oh, there's something about this place."
Yeah. So I guess when you're going through, like, I mean, like go through. So I mean, so realistically for you,
Yeah.
you can kind of shut it off if you. I mean, it's a bit of a skill to do that, right?
Well, it's like, if there's a conversation at the table beside you,
Yeah.
you can not listen to that. If someone's in your face screaming, it's really hard to shut that off.
But does that happen?
Sometimes it does, yes. And in
So
those places, I don't like to be.
so what about high school?
High school, we definitely, because we were messing around with that whatever we were doing, we didn't know what we were doing. Just playing with Ouija boards and connecting with whatever was
Yeah.
communicating, which is the kind of the equivalent spiritually of opening your front door and being like, "Who wants to come in for tea?"
Yeah.
Anybody. Nice people can come in, crazy people off the street, wild dogs, anything can come in.
Yeah.
So sometimes people get to talk to nice people, and that's a lovely experience. And we ended up talking with a lot of different weird and wonderful things that just didn't end up being awesome and would give us nightmares and would be like took years to figure out and clear.
So I mean, and when you and I were talking briefly before this,
Yeah.
you were telling me too that there's good and there's bad, right? Like you have some angry spirits,
Yeah,
and then you have some nice ones as well.
for sure.
So I guess like on that note, like give us some examples of stuff that you've experienced
Yeah.
for yourself. Like what, like in some of these houses, like because every house that you've lived in, you'd said yourself, it's sometimes there's nothing, and other times there's something in there. And
Mhm.
another
Yeah.
thing that you said, which popped out at me too, was that so, and I'll address everybody here, was like you don't necessarily need to someone to die or pass away in a home for there to have this spirit. It could be,
Mhm.
somebody lived there for years and years and years, and when they die, they go back there, right? Or something like that. And
Yeah,
there's what you called was energy. Okay.
totally.
So that's interesting because when it comes to real estate, right? If there's a death in a house, right?
You
or
disclose.
an unnatural death from one, we have to disclose that, like murders and suicides. But normally we'll see those in contracts. But if something's haunted, we don't necessarily have to disclose that, because there's a lot of people that, like, how do you prove it? It's something that you just can't
Mhm.
regulate. So if someone can notice it and other people can't. All right. So there's a couple houses even around here, okay, and I'm not going to give the
Of
address.
course not.
All right, call me. But they've changed like I remember one's like, without a doubt, Mickey. She went through it, and she's like, oh, this
Mhm.
feeling in there,
Yeah.
and it's turned hands 3 times in the last couple of years. There's another house that's directly in Rockwood, and every time somebody moves in, they split up,
Yeah.
right? Like like there's some bad energy there, and I'm like, I would like, don't buy that one,
Yeah.
unless you want to get a divorce. So depending on who you are, you might want to buy it, right?
Right.
But I guess on that note too, like, so I guess like, yeah, I guess I just want to rant about that, was that was something that Jennifer and I were talking about before, which I found was really interesting.
And there's a
So
difference between energy and an actual like spirit, a person, and like a soul maybe, I'm not sure. Again,
okay,
these terms are not
so
clear to me.
let's go like spirit and energy. Let's make
Yeah.
a distinction
So like
between the two.
energy, I read a really great book and saw the speaker on cleaning, which is a random topic. But when you clean something, if you're cleaning it, like the warmth from your hand, the
Client
energy,
Laura was talking about.
see, the energy from you goes into this table. So if you're putting good energy or you've had a really great set of conversations here, it's your family table
Yeah,
and amazing things have happened around it, your energy is going into that table.
yeah,
And that table, like a metal, if you heated up a metal, would then radiate that energy.
yeah,
So there is a subtle aspect of interacting with objects and places that then cause them to reflect out some of that information or that energy we've put in later on. So if you've had a family in a home that's been loving and
yeah.
had a wonderful experience and they raised their kids there and no really bad things happen to that family, that house probably has a really nice feeling to it.
And you do, like, I mean, I get that. Like, I will
Yeah.
go through a house and be like, it's a nice, solid, clean home. It
Yes.
feels great. It's got great vibes.
Totally.
So it wouldn't like, it wouldn't be, unnatural for me to say something like that, but I wouldn't necessarily be like, it's got good vibes. There's no ghosts in here. You can be
Right.
rest assured.
Yeah.
But like, I do have that feeling, like, it's got great vibes in here.
And that's when you go to your friend's house, you're like, their house is just so
Yeah,
nice. Like they could use a new couch and a paint job and all those things, but
yeah,
it's so nice because that's the energy of the people living there. And the same if it's a really stressful environment. There's been a divorce, there's been a death, there's been illness, there's just been a lot of stress.
yeah.
Those houses just seem, even though staged and beautiful, might feel a little bit more prickly when you're in there. Not because there's something haunting it, but because the people there are just in a stressed state and
And
their
you're
energy is
saying
hard.
that energy, you can clean that.
I think, yeah, I think by putting in more good energy,
Like, you smoke it, you
some
sage it.
people find like smudging will
Yeah,
help, and some people find putting salt on things or cleaning walls. There are a lot of different ways.
yeah,
Um, but I think energy itself, like just like a piece of furniture, that can have energy. This table can go somewhere else and be like, this is a good table, as opposed to, man, this table was in divorce court and it was
yeah,
always a stressed out table,
yeah.
that kind of thing. So that's kind of a different idea of energy.
Divorce court.
Bad table.
All right.
A different idea of when you walk into a place and you have a really nice feeling, or you're like, oh, I just, I don't really feel great. I mean, you always, most of our clients will attach it to like, I didn't like the cat box smell, or that
Yeah,
color kind of like the lighting made me feel weird. And
yeah,
it's usually just the energy of the house. And it's not necessarily a maybe like entity or a spirit that
yeah,
is harassing them. And then you can just have the basic energy of the house. Then there could be a person.
yeah,
Just like if there was a person, like you walked into this room, and if you're angry, you're like, oh, there's an additional, it could be a lovely room, but an
yeah.
angry presence.
Well, and I guess like, I mean, and I kind of look at that too, because we used to flip houses,
Hmm.
and you would transform these houses, and by the, like, when you first went into it, we were always like, great, the shittier the better. We can get a hell of a price on this. We
Yeah,
didn't care what was going on in the house.
totally.
Then when you strip everything and you wash it away, or whatever you want to
Hmm.
call it, all of a sudden now you don't you totally forget about that. But I'm really like, I do look at houses in terms of like, split ups. So I have no, like, there are a few where I'm like, "Yeah, you know what, maybe there is something to it." But I remember even our house, like ours is a turn of the century home.
Mhm.
Um, it was like, it was an old church manse, okay, and there was a kid living in there, and he used to write like chalk in the old barn that was there,
Yeah.
okay, and like just gibberish stuff. And we were always, and it was still there when we were there, like, because it was just the storage stuff from my folks' stuff.
Yeah.
But like, you would go up there, and there would be like all their old files, but it was really creepy. And when we were in high school, we thought, okay, you know what, we'll paint it all, and we made it like basically just a big drinking clubhouse. And we never thought about the eeriness of it after that. You just kind of went up there, the lights were on, it was freshly painted. So
Totally.
we kind of like scrubbed it ourselves, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah. But when I've been to that house, I've been like, "What is up with that room?"
Right?
And I wasn't there in high school when it was like it
Yes.
was different, but it still has a bit of an
There's
imprint of something.
there's something there. See, and I
Yeah.
think that's the difference between, the energy and the spirit itself. Like, so maybe, out there, if you
Yeah.
guys are listening and you get some of those feelings, that could be the energy that you're feeling, and not necessarily, the spirit itself.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
so let's jump into like some weird stuff that
Yeah.
you've had happen to you.
Totally. Yeah. So I would say, like, even in the purchase of our house, I'm not stigmatizing it at all, but
Yeah,
because it's
because we
changed
are going to
now.
sell it soon. It's a great family home.
Family home, century
Yeah,
home.
yeah,
Yeah. But when we moved there, when we were looking at it, um,
yeah. This is good. Tell us.
I love this
Go from the
story.
start. Go from the
So
start.
we were looking for a farmhouse. We wanted to live like that country dream. We wanted to have a hobby farm. And my husband John was a realtor at the time. I wasn't yet.
Yeah.
And we just had this search on. And actually, there's two parts. You haven't heard the other story.
Oh, no.
We went, like, this house comes up. I'm like, I want to go see that house,
Yeah.
which is probably a 5-minute drive from the house we ended up in. And we went to see it. And we're in there. And I'm like, this is the house. There's something like, this is the house. We can't afford it. It's not quite right. I hate this room at the top of the stairs. Like, there's some weird stuff about this house that just didn't work for my aesthetic and where we wanted to be. I'm like, but this is the house. This is the weirdest thing. We couldn't afford it, so we didn't put an offer in. And then went on. And like 2 months later, I'm like, that was the house, but it sold and it closed. And I'm like, what was that? How was I so sure that this was the house we were moving into? And then, like, a couple weeks later, another house came on the market. And I don't know how, I'm sure you know a ton about real estate in this area,
Yeah.
but they used to build houses out of like the Sears catalog
Yeah.
back in 1915, which is when our house was built. And this was the exact same house just down the road.
Yeah.
So it was identical floor plans. They had both been, Frankenstein, DIY kind of changed over the years. Exactly the same house, farther away with on like property. And it didn't have all the pieces that weren't working. I was like, this is the house. Like, I thought in my mind's eye, for whatever reason, it was the right house. It was just the right house plan. And this was the right house. And then we were there and I'm like, okay, again, it's too expensive. But because he's a realtor, we like to look at things. And I was in the successory apartment that it had. And my husband and the boys, who were really little at the time, were off somewhere else in the house. And
Your
I'm
husband
standing
and the
there.
boys were both really little.
Well,
Yeah.
boys, yes. And I was in this room and the sun was shining in through stained glass that was original. And this woman appeared. And I was like, this is interesting. In my mind's eye, like, I could kind of see her, like, you're standing there, but not with my eyes, with my mind.
Like, so. Okay, not to cut up your story. We're gonna go
Yeah,
back
yeah,
to. We're gonna go back to that. But
yeah.
you keep going.
Okay, so she was there and she's like an old-timey dress, like the high-necked kind of thing with the skirt and all of that. And I was like, interesting. And she said, you need to buy this house. This house has not had a family for a very long time, and you are that family. And I said, well, we can't afford this house. I'm debating with this ghost.
Yeah.
Like, we can't afford it.
And when you debate, like, it's in your head.
Yeah, in my head, I'm like,
It's not like you're
having
not
this
like.
conversation. I'm not talking to myself in the
Okay.
middle of the
Okay.
house.
Okay.
So I'm saying, like, we can't afford this house. Like, I appreciate that you're having some feelings about what I should be doing, but it's not going to work. She
And
said,
that's normal to you at this point,
this is
right?
normal. Well, yeah,
Like, you'll see that, like.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, we've had other stories before this that
Yeah.
make us very aware of ghosts. I'll get to some of those because those are interesting too. But so I said, like, we can't afford it. And she's like, don't worry, I'm going to help you because this house needs a family and you're that family. She kept saying that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, what are you just going to write me a bank loan? Like, how's this going to work? And we managed to negotiate way down on this price because of some structural issues and which we later remedied, and we got the house, and it was shocking. I was like, "How did that work?" Then we had to come in and put in a lot of renovations to fix up some structural things, and I thought, everybody, all these paranormal whatever, you do renovations and ghosts start, like, freaking out and stuff. The house got better every renovation we did because she was happier. She just wanted the house to look it was one owner away from being bulldozed.
Yeah.
She just wanted the house to look good, like it did when she built it.
Yeah.
And so every time the house gets better, she gets more happy. She took care of the kids. Like she would be places, I could just sense her outside of their bedrooms. They could see her at times when they were really little. And then eventually we had someone in who was a friend and we helped her transition out because it was just time for her to be able to just continue on with her journey.
Yeah.
She sometimes comes like back and just has a quick like, hey, but
Yeah.
she's not stuck to the place anymore.
Does she like she talks?
No, I just sense she's around. Just like a really warm, like if your grandmother walked into the kitchen and left you some cookies and left, you're just like, oh, she was just here.
Ah, okay. So let's get back to that. So that you said specifically in my mind's eye.
Hmm.
Okay, so just maybe that was just a wording you use, but like, is that what it is? Like, is that right? Like, are we
Yeah.
seeing that?
Well, and I think like, am I just conjuring this? Like conjuring up some imaginary
Yeah,
something or other? Yeah, for sure. I was like, this sounds nuts.
yeah, yeah.
But then I'll find other people, like whether it be my sister or other people that, you just fall in step with a lot of these people. My husband can do
And
it
that
too.
validates,
Yeah,
right?
you're just like, somebody's in the corner, and they're like, "Yeah, somebody's in the corner." I'd be like, "Tell me what you see." And I have in my mind, like, what I see, like, "Oh, it's an older man, and he's
Yeah,
holding a martini," and whatever, some facts about that individual. And they'll be like, "Yeah, it's like an older guy," and they'll say different things about the guy, but it's very clearly the same thing you're describing. And the more times that have happened, I'm just like, "Oh, there must be something to
yeah,
this. It's not
yeah.
just me
And
walking around making up stories."
any names? Ever any names?
I don't usually get names. I have a hard time remembering my own name. I
Yeah,
feel like you
yeah,
wake up in the morning, you're like,
yeah.
oh, like click
What
back into life and like,
what
that's
day
right.
is it?
What's my password for my I have no idea. So I wonder if like when you pass or have a transition like that, that might just not be that's just not something that I can hear. Like I could see what they look like. See.
Do you believe that everybody, let's say somebody passes away, do you believe that they all kind of go back to their spots that they really loved or they really hate, right?
No.
Because it's kind of funny. Like if you look at it in that perspective, the old lady wanted the family to have her home, right?
Hmm.
But then on the same breath, if there's real trauma in a house, somebody goes back there as well,
Yeah.
right? And it's like why wouldn't they go back to a place where they really loved and enjoyed? Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I guess
Yeah.
I kind of I mean I guess it's all the mindset of the person as well, right? There's some pretty angry
Possibly.
people out there.
Yeah.
You guys will know that once you start selling real estate. Um, but okay, so then is it you had a friend that you kind of said to her, "Hey, listen, thanks for all your help. Now get the hell out of here."
No, just like, you know what? There's so much more for you. You had children in your life. I know you want to see those people again. Like, I appreciate how much you've been helping us here and been present for us.
Yeah,
But hey, like, you can go do other things. We don't need to have you here. We're going to be okay.
yeah.
And that for her was just like, oh,
So does how do you know? Do they ever move things? Do
oh yeah.
we talk about haunted places like the bar in Acton, for instance.
Yep.
The like glasses are falling off shelves and things like that. Have you ever
Hmm.
witnessed anything like that?
Never anything that dramatic.
They leave anything there for you or anything
There's
like that?
definitely been like we had some stress at our house quite a few years ago, and it upset the the spirits in our house. I think there's quite a bit going on with an old house that was kind of the social center for a really long time.
Yeah.
Just a lot of energies, and at that time, for probably about 6 months, there were black stick pins, like old style black with the round metal on the end
Like
stick
bobby
pins.
pins?
No, like stick pins you would use for sewing, like to hold fabric in place,
Yeah.
straight pins,
Yeah.
but with a rounded metal, like hand forged kind of looking.
Yeah.
I didn't have any in my sewing kit.
Yeah.
Like I just had kind of new things that you would buy at store. And so I was like, well, that's weird. One showed up on the baby's tray, like food tray on his high chair. And I was like, what is that? Who would have put this
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
One was like you pulled back the sheets and it was in the bed, our bed. And I think there was another one on the floor somewhere. But I was like, these don't exist in my
Yeah.
stuff. Like they just were old stick pins. Like I'm unhappy. Here's a pin. They were never in a place where I was like, we're gonna get imminently hurt.
Yeah.
But it was just displeasure.
So if you're so if you're sleeping, have you ever had them wake you up? Have you
Yes.
ever had anything like that?
Yes. I used to live back in Port Moody in Vancouver. I was
Okay.
out there for a couple of years. And we lived in a house that was super like a railway station. I don't
Yeah.
know how it kind of had, you walked in the front door, it was like a second story walk up. And then people would walk down the hall past my bedroom into like the den and go like somewhere else. Like they went out into a different
Part of
reality. I
yeah.
don't know where they went. Like we were just maybe 40 feet of passageway in this dimension and then they were gone. But every number of people would be walking by there at any hour of day. And I
It was
usually,
only one. Like how many units were in the building?
like it was a Starbucks, a yoga studio, and us. That was it.
So somebody would come up the stairs, walk down the little hallway, and go.
Yeah, a whole bunch of people.
Okay.
Yeah, a whole bunch of different like travelers from different times. Sometimes they would like come into the bedroom, and this usually for me becomes a lot easier to do when I'm just waking up or just falling asleep, like that liminal state of not really critically thinking, and then things will happen. So I remember a couple of times like I was having an afternoon nap back before kids, and like someone was just like there beside me. This man was right in my face. And I just opened my eyes and I knew he was right there, dressed really distinctly. And I was like, nope. I just closed my eyes. I was like, I must just be dreaming. This is weird. And then when I woke up properly, there was nobody there. Like, okay. And that happened a couple times, but I didn't say anything to the partner I was with at the time. And at one point, I was like, how was your sleep? And he's like, oh, that guy. Like a guy came and he was right in my face, and I hadn't shared anything about that, and he described his really unique dress and everything. I was like,
But so he could sense it too?
yeah.
So like, but like, I mean, okay, so he could, John can. Like, do you think maybe you, like, I mean, I guess those your team that are behind you, they like they'll like, you know what I mean? Like
But I
you'd
don't
be
doubt that
attracted.
everyone has the skill. Like I think we're all kind of born with a whole set of skills, whether it be sensitivity wise or like able to do things that your ancestors could do.
Not just like selling
Not
real
just real
estate.
estate, like that I was born for this job, born for it. But yeah, we have these skills. Like sometimes you'll notice babies or cats or dogs will just be like staring really intensely at something
Yeah.
that's not there.
Like our little guy does that. Like he'll whisper things, and Laura said that the other day. She's like, I swear he's talking to someone behind me,
Yeah,
right? And
which is
she's
totally
got him here, and
possible.
he's like, you know,
Totally. Yeah. And on like in really super traditionally haunted places, you're like, guys love to go and be all big and tough. But a lot of people recognize that it's a weird space.
so if you have like for instance, like you say like waking up and going to sleep, like I
Yeah.
have like I would call them like hallucinations or more or less, where
Yeah.
like you would. But like for instance, I'm just about to fall asleep, and then I pretend I'm like I feel like I'm falling.
Right.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, and
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
get it back, or like something will happen where you're like, and then I'm awake,
Yeah.
right? Like so, but like am I just dreaming? Am I, you know what I mean? Like,
Totally. Which I would have assumed was dreaming if I didn't have
yes.
other people being like,
So
"Do you see
you
that
so you
thing?"
would have thought that, okay, hey, this is just kind of like a weird dream, but then other people around you have validated the fact that
Yeah.
it's actually a thing.
And even in our house, like I'll be like, "Who is walking around in that room?" Like I know my kids are in bed. I know the lights are out. This is usually in the evening when we're
Yeah,
just hanging out. I'll be like, just get the sense that somebody just walked past the doorway of this on the other side of the kitchen. And I'm like, somebody just keeps walking past. Like there's no feeling for me of like,
yeah.
someone's in there. Like I know that it's of a different
But if that's me,
energy.
like if I hear that and that's there, like if Laura hears that, like I'm getting the baseball bat or the
I
shotgun
don't
and going
hear it though.
downstairs and
It's
being
just like
like,
like
you
how
know
you
what I
get
mean?
floaters, or you're just like, hey, did I just see the cat run over here? Just those little things out of the corner of your eyes. So
Yes.
I'm not seeing like you walking past a door and being
Or
like that
like or
guy.
like
No, it's just like a sense that something is just like visually moved across the field of my vision
Yeah.
farther away. And, I was like, "Oh, what is that? Come on, knock it off. Like,
Yeah.
stop bothering me. If you got something to say, come on over."
Yeah.
And then the other night, John was just like, who just walked past there? Like, knowing we ask it, not like, we're really concerned there's somebody in our
Oh, but
home.
he's just seeing if you saw it type thing.
Yeah, like, did you see that? I'm like, oh, what was that person? Like, who is that? Why do they always walk the same direction? Like, they're just going to the bathroom every single time.
You think that John's making it up though? Like that's a pretty long charade to be able to
No.
seduce
No,
you.
no, exactly, like, way too
He's
long
oh
a
yeah, yeah,
game.
yeah.
That
No,
game
I hear it too. Yeah, we're both the same.
so similar. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
oh,
I often question every single time something comes up for me, like, even when we were at that event and I was like, "Ooh,
yeah,
that's spooky as heck over there. I'm not going back over to that bar."
yeah,
Not because I was like, "I totally get that there's this individual and this is what happened, blah, blah." I don't have those facts.
yeah,
But John and I both were kinda like, "We're just gonna move over to a different part." And
yeah,
then we had a conversation with you, and we're like, "Do you notice anything?"
yeah,
"Yeah, what's over there? What's this?" When you start tuning in, it's
yeah.
amazing what you can hear.
Well, and I mean, to me, that was really interesting too because we had hold on my computer just make sure it doesn't shut off on me. It was interesting because like I mean I've heard that stuff throughout my whole career and all that
Mhm.
and all that rubbish. Um,
Totally.
but like just to kind of get your perspective and then do the research after.
Yeah.
So for you guys, like, like, and I never really thought about this per se, but like they were saying, there's a homeless guy in the corner, and then there's a little boy walking around, and there's somebody with
You
a
make us sound so crazy.
well, with the chauffeur, and that's why we had to debate whether we were going to do this, right? Because we don't want to lose any business for that's my goal to realize how crazy like we're competitors to realize how crazy they are, and I'm like, well, you don't want to go with those guys, but that's what they through their mind's eye kind of vision, and then when you research it, it was an old trade station, so there's kids being left or homeless people on the steps or somebody moving a bellhop moving suitcases, and there was a lot of history and a lot of energy that flew through there over time. So it was interesting that it wasn't this like Charles Manson or something like that. It was
Yeah,
legitimate, like everyday kind of folk that you would have seen at a train station. Like go to downtown Toronto and go to that train station,
totally.
right? Like that's
Yeah.
the type of energy that she was feeling after, however many years
Ever
after
since the
the fact.
'70s, I think they
Yeah.
shut it down.
Yeah, no. So that was really what prompted this.
Mhm.
So okay, so going forward, you have like can you like so you like let's say you get some spirit screaming in your face,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Like can you like how do you even sleep? Like can you like to me that would like creep like okay, this guy's in my face, waking me up every night. Like what happens? Like how do you
Yeah.
deal with that?
Usually, like, for me, I don't know how other people do it, but if something's kind of bugging me, not that it happens a lot, like, I don't usually live in places where there's some really malevolent stuff going on because I can see that coming.
Yeah.
Um, just like people, just be like, "Knock it off. I need to sleep. Knock it off. I'll talk to you tomorrow." Or just like, "I don't need any of this. I'm only going to be accepting positive
And
vibes today."
that'll do it.
It does sometimes, yeah. And, like, as long as I'm not putting myself in a space where you got some really like, you can't do that if you're in a really dangerous and highly jacked up space of, like, crazy guys who are drunk in a bar and be like, "Everybody just knock it off." That's not gonna work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But if you're in a place like a toddler's walking up to you and just trying to be a jerk, and you're like, "Knock it off, go to bed."
yeah.
Then they listen. So it's just like a relationship with anyone else. I don't think I would go into somewhere that was known for being really, really spooky and malevolent and be like, everybody just knock it off. It's so presumptive.
So like and then okay, so like switch it to real estate.
Yeah.
All right? Like you're in houses all the time,
Yep.
okay? Listing a house.
Yeah.
If you list a house with a spirit in it or something like that, like have you done that? Like
We've turned down listings or we've helped other people to value listings that I would never walk into again. Just like there was one that we were helping a friend out with the valuation and it was really interesting. Lovely home. Individual was going into a home after his wife had passed away, just kind of end of life, and they're transitioning out of this home. And on the surface, like a couple little creepy things, like she collected dolls and plates and things like that.
I
So the
think
house was
dolls are
like
like the number one creepy
everybody
things.
thinks they're creepy.
Yeah.
So like,
Okay.
but I collected dolls too as a kid, so I don't find dolls creepy. I feel like they're interesting, but her dolls were like
Oh.
particularly nervousing. Anyway, so it was we were there, and as soon as I walked in, it was like someone was screaming in my face, like in my ear, just like yelling, like "Get out!" Like what is this? I've never seen this happen before,
Yeah. Yeah.
except like Hollywood, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Like Ghost.
And I was like, "Huh," and people are like, the stager's talking, the other realtor is talking, and I'm like, "Nobody else is hearing this. This is me. Okay, well, I'm just gonna pretend like this is a normal valuation. Let's walk through and make some chit chat." They're like, "Isn't this cool, this collection?" I'm like, "Oh," feeling extremely nauseous and just like freaking the F out, but not doing that because I'm a professional. And then we're walking through the house and we were walking up the stairs to see it was a really cool house, like so interesting, beautiful. Walking up the stairs, had to sit down halfway up the stairs. I'm like, I am a person in my prime. I should be able to
Yeah.
walk upstairs. And I said, huh, what? The person who is
Like
selling this house,
were this like was people like watching you like sit
we were
on?
walking up and I was at the end of the line of people walking up the stairs.
Yeah.
And I just sat down, like eventually gathered myself and was able to get back up the stairs. But I don't sit on stairs. I'm a
Yeah.
mom. I could do this with like a
Yeah.
3-year-old and a dog.
Yeah.
And, we I said, "So what is the individual who's selling the house like? He's not here. Obviously, he's in care. Like, what's his problem?" And they're like, "Oh, he has this really serious spinal issue where he can't walk." And I was like, "I get that,
Yeah.
but like, interesting, interesting." So this isn't stuff that I know I can go in and do. It's just like, oh, amassing experiences of like, this is okay, that this is how it expresses itself. And then we were downstairs and I was hearing a lot more yelling and kind of in conversation, just learned more about that there'd been a lot of family upset and there was, a lot of discord in what was going on. And this was a power of attorney sale. And it was being screamed at me like, stop this. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't. So leaving that space, didn't choose to stay in that space for a really long time, kind of did the duty and left. And really had to work at making sure that all of that energy stayed exactly where the energy was. And the property was, further on, it got purchased. I'm sure people are very happy there. It all worked out, but there was definitely some communication that wanted to happen in that
Well,
moment.
because if somebody doesn't necessarily like, if they're not tuned into that, they don't like it. I mean, it could have been one owner or one family that owned it. Like, because you look at that, like,
Yeah.
Jesus is the only person that's ever lived in the house. And it's always a good omen kind of thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And like, so you could easily look at it in that perspective too. So someone moves in there, they don't feel that, and then eventually maybe that spirit just goes away, or it's
Anything's possible.
just
Or they're there and they can't hear it, right? Like if you have hearing aids, you can't hear that conversation at the table beside you,
yeah,
right? You're just like oblivious, which is
yeah,
great too. I think there's a person for every house, and there's definitely a house for every person. But a lot of the clients we have a lot of in depth conversations. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that we learn about people. And if we're in a space and we're having those conversations and they're like, there's just something about this place. I'm like, okay, let's respect that. Like any
well,
issue. If they hate the bathroom there because they're big bathroom people, then we don't buy that place.
Well, it's like one thing too that always kind of stuck with me, like with real estate. Well, there's two things, right? Like, I mean, one, there's enough business out there for everybody.
Totally.
Two, your vibe attracts your tribe, and I just love that line because I do agree. There's people that you meet, and even for us, I'm like, this is going to be awesome. We're going to
Yeah.
sell these people a house. They're going to be super happy, super appreciative of what we do.
Yes.
Other people we meet, and I can't get away from them quick enough. I'm just
Totally.
like, and we'll turn down business if we don't think this, like, I'm not
It's
what
not a
you're
good
looking.
fit.
I'm not
Yeah.
what you're looking for. There's somebody out there, but it's just not me.
Yeah.
Um, so like for you, I mean, similar to, attracting your husband, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did it. Okay.
Vodka.
But yeah, a lot of vodka. But similar to that is like you've attracted somebody unknowingly, I guess, that resonates with, whatever this is.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess on that note, you're going to attract your clients like that too, right?
Full on. Like my people would be talking to their people and
Yeah.
there's something going on. Like when you meet someone, you're like, I just have a good feeling about this. And you
Yeah.
can't put your finger on why. It might just be because that's something that's supposed to be happening, or other levels of people in your group are talking. Who knows what it is? But trusting that gut feeling
Yes,
is so
yeah. And one
critical.
of the things too I've noticed about you guys and your business is, you guys have great clients. Like you and not only that, it's like you seem to have more repeat. Like I'm a marketing guy, right?
Totally.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, how do we get new client? And I mean, I know you do that as well, but that's one thing I've noticed about you guys too is
Mhm.
that you keep your tribe, so to speak, and you keep them happy for them to come back. So
Yeah.
but I guess too, like continuing on. So if you go through a house and let's say your client is like what's your obligation? How do you feel? Because to me, I can go through a house and yeah, this is a little rough, this needs a little work. And
Yeah.
mainly it's about like price point, location, right? The main
Totally.
things, right?
Yeah.
Um, and like for you though, like let's say your client falls in love with this house and you're like, I don't care what the listing realtor says. Somebody's died in this house,
Right.
okay, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, would you tell them that, or and then just a side note, guys, just like we said before, you're not obligated if something's haunted. It's immeasurable. You can't measure that.
Yeah.
So, but if you're on that frequency, you'll be able to notice it before someone like me. So,
Yeah.
if you notice something like that, is that a conversation that you have with your clients?
It's certainly like throughout the process of buying and selling, it's a conversation we have, not like, how do you feel about haunted houses? But while you're walking through, I'm not saying, you know, dictating what they feel about the house. It's more, what are you thinking of this? Like, I might see something and be like, this is a nightmare. I can't look at one more honeyed oak kitchen from
Yeah,
like the 80s and be
yeah.
like, nobody wants a honeyed oak kitchen. And these people, like, we've had clients who are just like, "This is the best kitchen I've ever seen." Like,
Well,
so passionate about it. So I keep checking in with them.
but it's kind of like it's always like I always joke around with my mom. We have this thing where if there's it's like a bright pink room, okay, and
Oh,
then
is
I'm
it?
looking
Yeah.
at it going like, geez, look at this, and then the client's like,
I love
yeah,
this.
isn't it wonderful? And we're like, yeah, so I mean, like there's that degree too, whereas like
Mhm.
because we always look at what's popular, and that's why we staging works
Yeah.
so well, right? And
Yeah.
these drastic colors are more of a personality thing.
Yes.
But so I guess yeah. So I mean, in that like you're asking them, but like if there's a fee like, have you ever had a point where someone's like, I love this house?
It's like being a
and
matchmaker.
and
Being a
then
realtor is being a
but if they're
matchmaker.
dead set on this house and you have a feeling about this house, do you say to them, hey,
No, it's not my
listen,
like, it's like if I said, "Hey, I'm trying to set you up with this person," and you're like, "I can't stand that person," or you see someone in the grocery line, you're like, "There's something about that person, I absolutely love them." I'm like, "Okay, I will disclose to you all of the things that I think might be problematic about this house, like the
func-
foundation is
like
cracked, like
functionality wise.
functionality, things that would impact future sale, pieces like that. Is it good for your family?" If there is a feeling there that people absolutely love that house, then there's something right about that house for that person.
So you'll feel it out per se
Like if
as
something's scratching my face and
yeah.
I'm like, this is an
And you're
alarming
like this.
place, I was like, whoa, this never happened. Like people will find the houses that they resonate with and they will go and see those houses and they will buy those
So
houses.
you feel them out though. Like you'll like for instance, if you're in the basement, like how do you feel about this basement? And they'll say, yeah, you know what? It's a little creepy, but we get the character. It's old and creepy. We get the character upstairs with the woodwork, so we're willing to sacrifice.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And, if you want to deliver the unexpected for closing gift, you just give them an exorcism or something.
Yes, yes, yeah. Or you you
You're like,
you
"Hey, I
uh
got you someone
you
to stage the
you
house."
smudge it,
Like,
right?
what a beautiful gift.
Yeah, you're like it's just random. It's no
Just
in particular
enjoy the
reason.
salt that
Yeah.
I'm putting on your doorstep.
Um, that's so funny. It reminded me of something, but I'll go ahead in a second. So, okay, so if that's the case, then like if somebody like, do you ever get clients that know that you have this frequency and they'll say like Jen, what are your thoughts on this house?
There have been, and we've worked with some people who have been so sensitive that, like, you walk in the door and they're like, "Nope," and they walk out the door. Like, they've gone no further, they've just gotten a sense of it, and they walk right out. I'm like, I don't even know what vibration they're vibrating at. Like, I can't see. Great. Everybody has a different level of sensitivity. And some people like to talk about that stuff, but I find at the end of the day, buying is an emotional decision, and
Yeah.
people will choose based on emotions. And if their emotions are telling them something good, I have to trust that that is a good choice for them. Like you might pick the wrong partner in life, but
Yeah.
when you're getting married, it's the last time, I'm not going to be like, you know what, he's got a lazy eye and
Yeah.
he's a bit overweight. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
no, I'm not going to do that because you have found something that fulfills you in this life. If I'm concerned that it will impact your life, like this is a divorce house. Oh, and a lot of people will ask, they're like, okay, what's been going on with this property? Why is it sold like 6 times in the last 10 years?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sure. I will look at the data and I will present whatever I can. And if I feel something, I may speak to that. But most often people are very sensitive themselves and just either call it a sensitive, they're not saying like, I feel something weird here, but that house just isn't a fit.
So you don't light a candle and you're like, come to
Yeah,
me,
I just do seances in the
right?
middle of
Like
every
anybody.
open house. Like, come on in. We're going to be working with
Right.
the Ouija
Yeah,
board.
like, and then like real clients come in and you're like, I'm busy with people right now, and you've
Exactly.
got a whole
Not
bunch of
nobody here.
spirits
Yeah.
around. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess like, so I've been like, since I've been talking about this, okay,
Yeah.
this podcast, I've had like, as I said, I was talking to my client Laura yesterday about it, and she was like, wow, like, and I ran into somebody else on Parade of Lights night, like,
Yeah.
and I mean, there's more people. I believe there's more people out there that probably maybe don't want to admit it or don't really realize what they're feeling, and then you would expect. Right,
Yeah.
like when I called you, I said, do you think you're gonna look crazy if I get
I
you
don't
talking
care if
about
I
spirits
do.
on a podcast? And you're like, no, shit, let's do this. And I think, yeah, so like I think even by doing this, I'm excited. Like if anybody out there has any comments about what's going on, or about if they're feeling something important, or that's a little different, you can always reach out to me or Jen.
For sure.
But if somebody's out there that is worried about, if a house has, bad juju or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
Jen might be the realtor for you guys, because then she can open up about that. But like, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, if nobody says anything about it, you're not going to be like, whoo, whoo, you're not going to make a big noise about it. You'll go through the house. You'll be professional. You'll go through the numbers. If they like the house, you
For
sell the
sure.
house, and as you said, they pick that house. The house is just as much for the person as the person is for the house.
Exactly.
So,
And 100% of the time that we've been in houses where there has been some weird stuff going on, whether it's haunted or just a weird energy, the clients are the first ones to point it out, not me. They're the ones like, whoa,
something
like, what
happened.
is this? They might attach it to an object in the space. They might be like, these bedrooms don't fit our family, but they are the ones who pick up on that weird sensation first. Like, as realtors, we walk in being critical of everything.
Yeah.
Like, our job is to protect our clients and to be like, I don't like how that is framed, or that doesn't look good. That could be expensive down the line. We should probably get a home inspection, things like that. But for them, they are looking to fall in love. It's an emotional decision. And when they're very early on in the process being like, I don't like it, I'm not going to be like, you should totally buy this place. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you have that feeling, we're going with it. So I've never actually been in the position of having a place be super spooky and the client's not being aware of it.
Yeah, they buy it. They buy it with emotion and justify it with the facts, right? Like,
Totally.
um, so they told me to take my phone off
I
the
believe
table,
she
didn't
did,
they?
yes.
Um, anyway, so I guess, so, like, just to elaborate on that, your clients would feel it before, maybe not before you, but they would feel it, and then you guys could discuss it as well.
Yeah, and maybe not define it as a feeling, but just like something with this house, I don't like it. And they'll figure out what that thing is often and call it like the kitchen's too small, or I don't like how that bedroom looks out over the shed.
Yeah.
Things like that. Things that might not have a play if you were listing a house to be like, that would be something someone would be sensitive to, but they may translate their weird feelings into concrete things that they see.
Okay. So if there's a house that's haunted in your belief,
Yeah.
we say haunted or spirits,
Energy.
do you think that it's possible, like, to get rid of those spirits? Like, if somebody comes through, like, if somebody asks you a question about it, like, let's say a couple bought a house, just adjusting my volume here. Someone bought a house like that one you were talking about with, the
Yeah.
screaming. Like, do you think it's possible that they can get rid of that spirit and then transform that house and bring all this good energy, this good family life into that house?
I think anything's possible. I've never been privy to trying to get rid of ghosts. I don't have that skill set. I don't know people who do that. I know that the one individual who was at our house that helped us to purchase it, the original owner, it was time for her to move on, and she did, and hasn't come back. So I know that that was possible. So just like being a scientist and being like, okay, what have I seen in terms of evidence? It looks like people can move on, but just like you would ask someone to leave a house, if you're just really happy in that house, you're not going to leave your house. So I'm not sure if that's like a church question.
So you think you're not? I mean, I guess that's something you don't know.
I don't know. Like I've seen The Exorcist. That's a terrifying movie, and I've seen like some of those haunted. I can't watch those haunted movies. They're way too scary for me.
Yeah.
But maybe it's possible. I think as much as getting someone to figure out where they want to go next. Like it's like real estate. What are the transitions? You're transitioning out of a one bedroom house to a place where you can raise kids. You're transitioning out of your four bedroom into a smaller condo because that's the stage of life you're at. I don't know that it's much different for spirits and entities to be like, well, I'm transitioning out of this century home into
A new home.
whatever comes next.
Yeah.
Like
Or I'm gonna follow the people that live in this
some
home.
of them follow objects, like you, like the place that where the screaming was happening. Some of the objects also had things attached to them, so it was just like a really intense space.
Well, it's and it's and the people like I have like my client Laura. She says that some spirits will, if somebody has a really bright light, they'll follow that person. They think it's another light, and
That's
they'll
where they're
follow that
going.
light, and you have to tell them to leave or clean
Yeah,
clean or whatever you
that's
do.
totally it. Yeah,
But like she said, if there's a mood that you're feeling or something's attached to you or anything like that, so a lot of the times that's what it is, and there is a way to be able to get rid of that.
yeah.
So that if you guys give me a call, okay, I can
If
connect.
you are an
I can
exorcist,
connect you. And then so final thoughts here.
yeah,
Um, you guys like that? How we just transitioned this into real estate? Like,
everything is real estate.
if you sell real estate, it always kind of comes full circle. But final thoughts: if somebody's out there, okay, that's similar to yourself, that like has like just has that like well, for instance, like if you were doing that in my family, everybody would be like, oh, forget about it, don't be so crazy.
Yeah.
And then like, so someone's out there and they have these feelings but they don't have the same circle of validation around you that you had. Like,
Hmm.
what would you tell them to do? Like, what are your, you know what I mean? Like, someone's out
Yeah.
there thinking they're crazy.
Well, I think being authentic, like with anything in life, the more authentic you can be about who you are, that's the bright light that people get attracted to. So you can be like hanging out in the wrong place with your authentic light of love and hope and seeing ghosts or whatever you might be doing.
Yeah.
And maybe hanging out at the tractor shop is not the place where you get it. Maybe it is. Maybe there are people there who need to hear that message. I think we are each put on this planet to be our authentic selves. So being that authentic self, regardless of what other people may say about it, as long as you're safe,
Yeah.
um, is what our gift is to give to the world. Like if I continued to keep stuff quiet, I probably would feel insane in my own self and not have the value of having connections with people who are also noticing
So
me.
you'd think you'd feel worse if you didn't say anything.
You would feel like constrained. You would feel like an adult in 2024. Like being
I think
truthful and
she's talking about
honest.
me.
No, like everybody.
Right.
But
But
like
okay.
being honest about who you are, I think is probably the biggest gift you can give everyone else.
So someone's in there, I mean, first off, guys, you can always call Jen, okay?
Call me.
She
We'll
is
talk.
going to she like I mean, the knowledge that she has, okay, coming like just her background alone to where she is now is pretty impressive. And I think, yeah, like, so I guess if someone's watching this and they want to see if maybe somebody around there is feeling the same way or has these same visions, Jen, like, not only will come to your house to check, but she'll give you a free home evaluation. All right.
Excellent.
All right.
Bring a coffee too. It's good.
Okay, cool, cool. Well, I'm glad. Okay, I'm glad we're gonna finish up, but I'm glad you came here. I'm glad we got to talk about this subject. It's like I am like fangirling over here, and I'm like you and I will continue to have conversations about
Yeah.
this because like if I'm kind of like if I can tune in, I'm gonna try and do it. I'm skeptical, okay, like
You're
always,
fully gifted. What are you talking
right?
about? You keep
But
calling me, so I know there's
I'm
something there that's just like that curiosity that
yeah, like I'm very curious. So we'll like this probably won't be the first time, the last time that Jen comes on here.
I feel like
Um,
Sylvia Brown, the
y-
psychic medium.
yes, and but once again, guys, we are always out there. Like if there's any questions about it, like maybe you're out there that you know you want to make sure that the house has good vibes or something like that. You know, she might be the one to talk to as well. So thank you very much.
And thank you so much for
Okay.
creating this platform for people to come and talk about interesting things and like also being honest with your own self to say, what am I passionate about? Because
Yeah.
that makes the world so much better when you can be you and you're awesome.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Okay, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.